All right, folks, let's continue this. We're continuing our series here on what are going to be the in demand skills in the age of AI and automation. And there I start referencing Lean Six Sigma. It's going to be crucial to everything we go going forward. So I have some thoughts here. What will happen to your career if you don't adopt to this evolving AI landscape that's set to automate approximately 50% of work tasks currently performed by humans? Are you ready for this? What's going to happen? Is your position or your skills such that they could possibly be done by AI and automated, right? And then how will you compete in your industry when advanced analytics and AI and automation become the minimum standard, just not the added advantage? Right now, there's a bunch of us taking advantage of this. We're early adopters of this AI. We're ahead of the game. We're on this curve to move forward. But think about this. I want you to think good and hard about this. What would happen if this were to happen? Are you prepared? Have you prepared yourself for this day of AI, this day of automation, all this fantastic stuff that's taken place around it? It's going to lead to massive productivity gains within businesses. It's going to lead to massive innovation in healthcare and in IT and in the sciences. Are you prepared? Because those aren't the only things that are going away. So let's roll through this and let's do an exercise. Remember the last time we got together, I did a little extra, one of the videos, few backs, I said, let's understand what change feels like. We know it's awkward. We know it doesn't feel good, but here's what I want you to do. Cross your arms across your chest. Patronize them. Just do it. Go ahead. No, go ahead and do it. Cross your arms across your chest. I can see you're not doing it. Yeah. Okay. There we go. Right. That feels okay. You're normal. That's a custom. In my case, this is my right arm. It's over my left hand, and that's comfortable. Now I want you to uncross your arms and fold them the other way. Put the opposite hand. Go ahead. Do it. Put the opposite hand over your chest and see what happens. Right. It feels a little awkward, doesn't it? It's just awkward. So we know that change is just like that, and we have to adopt to it. But guess what? You have an opportunity to do so right now. So let's continue in on this. We're going to recap where we are, and this time we're going to cover what skills are going to be in demand. I've been hitting this hard. Critical thinking skills. Everyone says they have it, but come on, baby. We know that it's a practice skill, and despite everyone saying they have it, with a handful of questions, we can expose the true critical thinkers from the fake, the make-believe, the meme critical thinkers, right? Complex problem solving. Everyone says they're a great complex problem solver until they show up and we start asking them the right questions to understand if they really dug into the problems that they're addressing, and how did they verify and validate the root causes, right? What data did they use? Was that data good or bad? How did they identify all those potential great solutions out there? And how did they define what those few solutions were that they were actually going to put into place, right? Complex problem solving is a fantastic skill to have. And that's one of the skills we actually teach along the way. Data literacy. We spoke about data literacy. What is data literacy? How to think about data literacy, and understanding that data is how we present and organize and communicate information. And guess what? Data literacy includes statistical thinking, right? If we're going to be data literate and data driven, that's my other consulting favorite term. I'm data driven. If you're data driven, tell me about the variation in your data. Tell me about the variation of your process. If you're not, and someone like me is going to ask you those questions, you better quickly remove that from your LinkedIn profile. Data-driven is understanding the statistical implications on the statistical data and measures within your data. If you can't talk about that, woo! So data literacy is about being able to present, communicate, organize the data, and address those critical questions, right? If you're reporting, the average of this and the average of that, and look at my little run chart, those are all interesting things, all rookie stuff. We want to know confidence intervals. We want to know the probability of hitting certain numbers. We want to know the probability of not hitting, of exceeding a certain spec level that's been given us to our customer. Data analytics, we're going to talk about that today. I love data. I like looking at it. I like analyzing it. I like slicing and dicing and looking for great things in that data, applying algorithms. Data analytics, we're going to hit on right now really hard. Innovation. Everyone says they're they're innovators and great thinkers and all that stuff. Yeah. Innovation includes a defined process to ensure we're creating the products and services that our customers would actually like, what they actually are looking for. And then how do we validate that these things are going to work in the marketplace? Strategic thinking. I'm a strategic thinker. I'm into strategic thinking, all those great stuff. When I see that, I know there's a handful of questions that I could ask somebody and separate the strategic thinkers from not. Now we have people that are like, oh, we'll shoot for the stars, right? We're goal oriented. Creating goals, objective measures, and targets is not strategic thinking. Strategic thinking is about how we operate differently than our competitors. How do we know what our competitors are doing? Do we really understand our industry by doing a Porter's five forces analysis? Can we do a pestle analysis and understand where things are going? If you can't talk in those terms, remove strategic thinking from your LinkedIn profile right now, because there's going to be somebody asking you those questions. Hopefully not me, right? So here we go. Let's create just a definition. Now you can go to Google, create your own definition. You go to all the AI apps out there, but data analytics involves examining large data sets to uncover hidden patterns, correlations, and insights that can help us make better decisions. Of all the statistical tests and all the analysis we do, correlation is the weakest. So don't bring data to me and say, oh, look, I'm a great analyst. Look how this is correlated. There are other things we can do in our data and other statistical tests to uncover the patterns in our data. Now, if you're just calculating the average, and woohoo, we calculated the average, right? And you don't know any more about that data, you're in trouble, right? AI can do that for you. I can take a large data set and drop it into AI and say, hey, give me the average, create a graph for me, and be done with it, just like that. But when we're talking about data analytics, we're talking about digging deeper into that data. We're talking about combining data sets that exist out there. There's all this great data out there. How do we merge the data and how do we call out interesting things? Also, we're talking about descriptive statistics, right, and analysis. Diagnostics, right? How do we diagnose a particular problem? Predictive analytics. How do we forecast the future, right? Most rookies or most people, these data-driven people, will create a line chart. Here's my data. I'm going to put a regression line in there, and here's how I'm forecasting it out. There are better techniques out there. And then we have prescriptive analytics. We're not going to dig real hard into all these right now because we're going to have follow-up sessions. I'm just laying out the groundwork for you right now. What are the skills that are going to be required in the age of AI and automation? And we know it's critical thinking. I laugh every time someone says they're a critical thinker. We know it's going to be complex problem solving. I get the little queasies when someone says they're a complex problem solver. We know it's data literacy, data analytics, innovation, and of course, strategic thinking. Let's continue on, folks. Driving. So what are some of the things that we're actually talking about here, right? In the age of AI and data analytics, right? Data analytics is a groundwork for us for training models, analyzing huge sets of data, identifying those trends and patterns so that we can take some action on it. Now, I would argue, and I would argue strongly right now, we often receive data that needs to be reformatted, that needs to be massaged in some way. And here's what I see happen. People go into an Excel spreadsheet. They get a massive Excel spreadsheet because they're data driven and they're analysts. And then they start moving data around. They start reformatting rows, changing headings, reformatting data fields, coding the data differently, putting formulas in there that are prone to error. And there they go. Right. And they have repeatedly, month in, month out, unfortunately, they're getting a data in this lousy format. There are tools out there, and I have a fantastic tool that I use, that if I can standardize and I can have a repeatable, reproducible way of scrubbing my data, especially if I'm getting a large file that's maybe too big for Excel. If I'm looking at 3, 4, 5 gigabytes of data and I'm not a Python, you don't need to be a Python coder and all that great stuff, right? I can create a repeatable process using my data. It's like a little flow chart. I put in step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4, and lo and behold, it's repeatable. I don't have to make mistakes. It's almost like having a database that does nothing but correct our data. It's going to enhance our decision making. When we have good data and we've brought back disparate data, sets of data, and we can optimize it and organize it and we can segment it. Segmentation is the ability to break the data out into groups. Maybe we have VIPs versus everyone else. Maybe we have public sector businesses versus the private sector businesses. It's a way of understanding that data so that we can move ahead. Especially in healthcare, finance, and manufacturing, we have tons of data out there that we're not leveraging and that we can use possibly to predict. So are you prepared in this day and age where the routine stuff can be automated? Are you prepared to talk about data? Are you data literate? And can you analyze data appropriately? There's so much of it out there, everyone's going to have to do it. And then here we have this predictive power of the data. Can we predict and forecast trends based on other things that we see within the industry? Not just here's my run chart, here's my chart of my data, and I put a regression line through it. That is not predictive power. That's interesting, but that can be done by AI. We don't need you or anyone else to do it. So if you want to ensure you remain at the top of your game, these are the skills you have to have. Now, I talked about data literacy in my previous video. If you haven't seen it, go take a look. And I just want to, again, compare and contrast what data literacy is compared to data analytics, right? Data analytics is more technical. We're performing detailed analysis of our data and interpreting it. We may use statistical calculations like the normal distribution, and we're going to figure out the problem. To analyze data sets that have been provided to me. Somebody hasn't been monkeying around with it in the background. Data literacy is understanding and interpreting and communicating that data, that information, and that includes understanding and being able to answer statistical questions about your data. So if you have an average and somebody wants to know, well, 20% of our customers will experience at least what? Well, the average isn't going to tell you. You have to understand the average. You have to understand the standard deviation. You look at the probability under the curve, and you can answer those questions. If you can't answer those questions, you're going to say, oh, here's my average. We don't. That's no longer required. We can do that in AI very easily. And then there's an interaction here, right? Data literacy, data analytics. I've seen fantastic people at data analytics, and they can carve the data, but they have no idea what to do with it. Isn't this interesting? Okay, it needs to be more than interesting. I need to do something actionable with this. How's this going to increase this person's a good person to apply to give a loan to. So that's what we're talking about here. So so where do we develop these skills and how do we develop them easily? We can take classes on statistics, on data analysis. There's all sorts of great YouTube videos out there. I'm going to be showing you some of the fantastic low-cost tools that you can use and creating more videos about how to be a better data analyst and understand that. But of course, there's I have a program. It's Lean Six Sigma training, and I've been in the world of Lean Six Sigma for over 30 years. Right? When I learned Six Sigma, there's a thing called the DMAIC process. It was called MAIC when I learned it because it was from Motorola. It's before GE got in there, right? But it's a really strong method of helping us understand our systems, our processes, our customers, and more importantly, our data. It's statistically rigorous. As we analyze our data, it gives us greater confidence in our decision making because we have that rigor in there, and we can make some fantastic improvements around those decisions that we're making. It's going to help us with process improvement. If we could analyze our process, understanding and having a framework that's just not data. You go to college and they give you all these crazy hypothetical situations that are, interesting. How do I use it in real life? How do I make money from this? How does my organization prosper? How do I prosper, right? So we can go into our processes areas, start measuring its performance, understanding the variability. That's variation. If you don't understand the variation in your process, you're pretty much screwed, right? So we have to understand those businesses so that we can make data-driven decisions. And data-driven is not, you're not making the data looking at an average or looking at a pie chart, a little run chart. That's just, that's poor. That's not data scientists and go is being built right now and software that can help you. You just need to understand the context. You need to understand that there's bias in the data. How do we remove the bias in the data and how we actually apply that data? So in our classes, we are huge on real world examples of how we look at data, measure it, monitor the data, understand the variations so that we can take action and drive improvements that are going to satisfy and improve our customer experience, if you will. So that's data analytics. Here are the skills, again, that AI and automation are going to likely, if your job is comprised mostly of these skills, let's get plan B together. That plan B needs to be plan A, folks. If it's repetitive and rules-based, you need to do something here because those jobs are easily automatable by putting rules engines in place. So automation is right there, ready to take it, including AI, the ability to make decisions. If you have large volumes of data that require data processing and analysis, if it's done the same way repeatedly, there's machine learning. I have some fantastic tools where I can upload my data and it's more of a black box. One of my problems with a lot of data analysis is people are going out and creating, I have this proprietary algorithm and I don't know what it does. But with machine learning, it can start drawing inferences of the data. And sometimes it creates these black box algorithms. I mean, we don't know how it got to the right answer, but we can look at it and we know it got that right answer. And if you're doing something repeatable and over again, you can program it. I can program that into AI and say, here's what I need you to do. Here's the analysis I need you to do, and in this order. So it's really good at processing lots of data and scrubbing it for us. Pattern recognition and prediction. It can find patterns in data that we would never really be able to find, especially if we're working with large volumes of data. AI is fantastic for it. Now, people will say, hey, you know what? AI hallucinates, right? Everyone knows this term hallucination, and that's their excuse for not using it. You better get real here, because hallucination means that the stuff that we began with in AI, it starts to forget about, and then it starts to go off on its own tangent. That's because the context of the data it had in memory was small, but now it's getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And guess what? We're seeing AI agents that can put it into a vector database and always go back to that vector database and refresh its memory. So it's really good at identifying patterns. You're going to see it used a lot more. It's going to be a better, I guarantee you, in the next 2 years, all the doctors are going to be reliant upon AI for medical diagnosis. It can look at your entire medical record if it's in a system somewhere and start analyzing it. When you go to the doctor and you spend $75 for that 10-minute visit with the doctor, and he's just looking at your last two visits, that doesn't do us much good, right? Doctors don't have a lot of time to go back and research all your history and say, oh, by the way, Dan, look what we discovered. AI is going to be able to go back, look at your history, and say, "Holy cow, we missed this, but we see a high correlation between this and that, and let's get along with it." It's going to help with recruiting, screening people in those resumes, supply chain issues. Just think about all the supply chain issues we still face from COVID, right? Getting the right product at the right place at the right time at the right cost. All those supply chain issues are, so if this is your business and you're trying to do this pattern recognition and prediction, and you're doing it from a desktop, AI is going to be much better for it. Anything that's codifiable, I'm just going to hop down to the bottom one. That means we can code it into the database. It's almost the same as rules based and make decisions off of that data. AI and automation are going to be doing it, right? I have an AI bot now that if someone makes a recommendation for code, we know what it would be nice if your software did this. The bot gets the information, it starts processing it, developing the code. That bot launches 3 other bots that are quality reviewers. One's going to look at how can I make the code faster, one's going to look at how the code can fail, and one's going to look at the system implications on memory and stuff like that. Those bots all talk to one another and they say, we think this code will satisfy that customer. Just think about what it's going to do to software development. It's a beautiful thing. That same bot, that same app that I use can go out and solve CAPTCHAs, right? Think about all the time you're spending going out there doing CAPTCHAs. So it's pretty cool. So again, data analytics is going to be the in-demand skill, and there's going to be ways to test for it. So in the age of AI and automation, right, the skills that are going to still be in demand are critical thinking. I did a little video on critical thinking, and I may even put up a little quiz to test critical thinking skills. Complex problem solving, right? Everyone wants to say they're a complex problem solver, but unless you're a good critical thinker, unless you're data literate and understand that and the analytics behind it, you're probably not so much. Data literacy, being able to communicate with data analytics. Everyone, if you think you're getting away from data analytics and you're too good for that, or it's not part of my job, I'm in this part of the organization, it's someone else's job, you're in for it. Innovation, and my favorite all-time skill that is grossly exaggerated, that has a panache associated with it, is the strategic thinking. I'm going to be making more videos on innovation and strategic thinking going forward. But I just wanted to continue. I have a little momentum here, and I almost, it's easy to fall off the wagon and become undisciplined. But I wanted to present this to you in a way that you can understand. And I'm telling you, if you go in and type into any of these search engines, what is the impact of AI and automation on jobs, you're going to be totally shocked. And then you can ask it more specifically, what is the impact of AI and automation in my industry, in my role? There is so much being written about it. As a matter of fact, yesterday I was cruising the news articles and there was a bunch of things. Critical thinking, the new in-demand skill, right? It was in a news article. So what I've been doing is, as I'm talking about these subjects, I'm looking at the news articles coming up and copying and pasting them. What I'm going to do is actually bring those articles forward in another video and say, hey, look, the proof is in the pudding. Here is what everyone is saying that we need going forward. But let's do one thing here. Let's see how comfortable you are with this concept of AI and automation, right? Many of you are probably saying, nah, I'm okay. No big deal. My job is safe. My employer says they're not going to use it. Okay. Pay for the training. ChatGPT or Claude or Google Gemini Pro or Llama. So, I'm basically not going to learn it or do anything about it. I'm not worthy. I'm not willing to invest in myself. That's what people are really, when I talk to people and they say, well, no, I don't have ChatGPT for it. No, I'm not AI. So is it because you think your job's immune to this? Are you crazy? Or is it because your employer won't pay for it and you're not willing to invest in yourself, right? It's all three of those are valid. But let's do this exercise. Work with me like we did the crossover. No one's watching you. So go ahead, close your eyes. Go ahead, close your eyes just for 1 second. Work with me. Make believe. Go ahead, close them. Right? I know you want to close them. I know you want to participate in this. So just go ahead. Close your eyes for a second. Now, make believe you're in your office or in your desk, right? You can hear the people around you listening, and things are going on, and you're at work. And now all of a sudden, you feel a tap on your shoulder. There's a tap on your shoulder. And it's your boss. Your boss says, hey, we need to talk. We need to talk right now. And you're like, okay. He taps on his shoulder. No, we need to talk right now. What comes to mind? Are you anxious? Are you thinking you're getting the ticket? You're getting we used to call it the big chicken dinner when somebody got laid off and riffed in a company, right? So think about what you were feeling. Were you feeling excitement, like he has a great new project and opportunity for you? Or were you like kind of like, whew, man, I'm not sure what's going on here and I'm hoping I'm not getting riffed, right? So that little exercise, try it with other people and see how they actually feel about that. But I want to tell you, you have an opportunity here to still, you may not be in the front of the train leading it, but get on it. Don't be on the caboose, but start learning these skills right here. There are ways of using these skills, and there's programs like mine out there that we talk about critical thinking, about complex problem solving, data literacy, data analytics, innovation, and not so much strategic thinking. But I have this fantastic bot. If you're a consultant and you're going on proposal on a client's site and you can't do a decent strategic analysis, I wrote a strategy bot that I have in ChatGPT that does the Porter model analysis. It does the pestle analysis. It does the scenario planning analysis. It does the blue ocean strategy analysis. It may not be 100% perfect, but it's probably 95% perfect. And if it's better than showing up with nothing, right? So just think about it. There's all sorts of great tools out there. So please, if you like it, comment, share, do it. Share this video with someone. If you have kids and you want them to get on board, or if you have a partner, make sure your partner is listening up. Or if you have a team, listen up, like, share this video, right? We're going to continue this series. And if it's not adding value to you, all right, I apologize. But if it is, hey, make sure people hear about it. Everyone needs to hear about this, especially our friends and our family members, people we trust. So let's get on board. Share your comments. If you disagree and you think this is all bogus and AI is going nowhere, I'd love to hear about it, right? Maybe you have a point, but I'd still love to hear it. So having said that, folks, I'm going to, if there's no questions, I'm looking in the chat window here to see if there's any questions. It's a Friday. I figured this is a Friday freebie. Let's get something out so for you to start thinking about the weekend, and just go ahead and have a great weekend, folks. I really do. And take this to heart. Take some action. Don't be leveraged by AI. Leverage AI and automation. Have a good one. Great weekend. Ciao.